Camp Mystic sat quietly along the banks of the Guadalupe River in Kerr County, Texas, an all-girls Christian summer retreat known for lifelong memories, faith, and sisterhood. On the evening of July 3rd, 2025, the camp was alive with joy. Girls sang under string lights, counselors prepared for Independence Day activities, and the river sparkled peacefully, hiding the disaster quietly building upstream. Parents, miles away, scrolled through camp photos of smiling daughters. No one imagined these moments would soon become part of a national tragedy. Despite a few weather alerts, the mood remained calm. There were no sirens, no evacuations, only the silence before a storm that would take 27 young lives. As midnight approached, the first raindrops fell, gentle, almost reassuring. But within the hour, the sky unleashed chaos. The National Weather Service issued a flash flood warning. Camp Director Dick Eastland began waking cabins and moving campers to higher ground. But the Guadalupe River was already rising fast. At 2:30 a.m., the floodwaters surged without mercy. Cabins shook, lights flickered, screams pierced the dark. In moments, a place of faith and innocence turned into a fight for survival. And by dawn, many would be missing in the water. At 1:14 a.m., the National Weather Service issued a flash flood warning for Kerr County. On paper, it was just another weather alert. But to those on the ground, especially Camp Mystic staff, it marked the beginning of unimaginable terror. Camp Director Dick Eastland reviewed the warning in silence, then sprang into action, urgently waking counselors and instructing evacuations. The storm outside had turned violent. Rain pounded roofs like fists. The once quiet river groaned in the darkness, swelling with deadly force. Still, communication was failing. Self-service was spotty. The camp had no siren system, and with the power beginning to flicker, every second became a race against a flood they couldn't see. Some girls were still asleep when water reached the lower cabins. Others, half-dressed and barefoot, were rushed toward the dining hall on higher ground. The night was chaos. Flashlights swinging wildly, counselors screaming names, and cries of confusion echoing through the trees. By 2:30 a.m., the Guadalupe River surged 26 feet in under 45 minutes. There was no stopping it now. As screams grew louder and the current swallowed trees and buildings, the staff realized something horrifying. They were running out of time. By the time the clock struck 3 a.m., the Guadalupe River had become unrecognizable. No longer a tranquil backdrop, but a roaring wall of black water tearing through Camp Mystic with terrifying force. Witnesses would later describe it as a beast, fast, violent, and unstoppable. Trees snapped like twigs. Cabins floated from their foundations. Screams were lost beneath the storm's thunder. Counselors tried to form human chains, gripping terrified girls as they crossed collapsing walkways. Flashlights died in the rain. Girls clutched hands, some crying, some silent with shock. Moments earlier, they were writing letters home. Now, they were running for their lives. The river swallowed everything in its path. Power lines crashed. Buildings crumbled. Even the highest ground began to flood. Emergency responders hadn't arrived, and the camp was cut off from the outside world. No roads, no rescue, just chaos and rising water. Then one counselor slipped. She was pulled under in front of the girls she was trying to save, vanishing beneath the current. In that instant, the terror became real. This wasn't just a flood. This was a disaster unfolding in real time. And it wasn't finished yet. By sunrise on July 4th, the storm had passed, but what it left behind was unthinkable. Helicopters began circling overhead. Boats launched from downstream. First responders arriving on foot were met with a chilling silence. What was once Camp Mystic now looked like a war zone. Cabins flattened, trees uprooted, and personal belongings scattered like ghosts of the night before. Survivors huddled on high ground, soaked and shaking, whispering names. Some were reunited with friends. Others asked about girls who had vanished into the dark hours before. Parents, desperate for news, crowded camp hotlines, only to be met with busy signals or haunting silence. Bodies were discovered in the debris, some still holding hands, others in groups, as if they tried to stay together. The official count rose hour by hour. By late afternoon, 27 campers and counselors were confirmed dead. Dozens more were still unaccounted for. For many families, the wait became unbearable, but the river wasn't done. Even as search crews arrived, parts of the camp remained underwater. Rescuers had to decide quickly where to search first and who they still had a chance of saving. Every second mattered, and for some families, the next knock at the door would change their lives forever. As the nation mourned, one name echoed louder than the rest: Dick Eastland, the beloved Camp Mystic director who died trying to save the very children entrusted to his care. To parents, he was a leader. To campers, he was a protector. And in those final hours, he lived up to both. Witnesses say Eastland was everywhere that night, carrying girls on his back, yelling instructions through the rain, pushing open jammed doors as water rushed in. Even when urged to save himself, he refused. Not until the last girl is safe, he told counselor. It was the last time anyone saw him alive. His body was found days later, clinging to a broken beam near Cabin 7, where the youngest girls slept. He had stayed behind, tried to reach them, and he almost did. His death shattered the community. At his memorial, parents sobbed openly. Campers, wrapped in blankets and bandages, whispered his name with reverence. In every survivor story, Dick Eastland appeared, a symbol of courage in a night full of fear. But while his legacy would live on, one agonizing question remained. Why wasn't the warning enough to save them all? In the days that followed, Kerr County became the epicenter of national grief. Flags flew at half-staff. News crews lined the flooded roads. Vigils lit up churches across Texas. But behind the tears, anger brewed. How did a modern summer camp, in one of the most flood-prone areas of the country, not of sirens, escape routes, or real-time alerts? Parents demanded answers. Survivors, still in shock, spoke of the moments that could have made the difference. The seconds lost, the warnings delayed, the sirens that never came. Investigators began peeling back layers of neglect. It wasn't just a storm. It was a system that failed them. Emergency management systems had been underfunded. Floodplain maps hadn't been updated in years. A plan to install river sensors had been delayed by bureaucracy. Children died in a place that should have been safe because no one thought it could ever happen there. The death toll reached 135 across central Texas, with Camp Mystic carrying the heaviest burden. Lawsuits followed. Reforms were promised. A new flood warning system was approved. But for the families who buried their daughters, it was all too late. Camp Mystic never reopened. What remains is a shattered camp, a grieving state, and a river that still runs, quiet now, but never truly silent. Because for those left behind, the screams of that night still echo in the water,